Knoxville, summer 1915. We are talking now of summer evenings in Knoxville, Tennessee, in the time that I lived there so successfully disguised to myself as a child. It was a little bit mixed sort of block, fairly solidly lower middle class, with one or two juts apiece on either side of that. The houses corresponded, middle-sized, gracefully fretted wood houses built in the late 90s and early 1900s, with small front and side and more spacious backyards, and trees in the yards, and porches. These were softwooded trees, poplars, tulip trees, cottonwoods. There were fences around one or two of the houses, but mainly the yards ran into each other with only now and then a low hedge that wasn't doing very well. There were few good friends among the grown people, and they were not poor enough for the other sort of intimate acquaintance, but everyone nodded and spoke, and even might talk short times, trivially, and at the two extremes of the general or the particular. And ordinarily, neighbors next door talked quite a bit when they happened to run into each other, and never paid calls. The men were mostly small businessmen, one or two very modestly executives, one or two worked with their hands, most of them clerical, and most of them between 30 and 45. But it is of these evenings I speak. Supper was at 6 and was over by 1:30. There was still daylight, shining softly and with a tarnish like the lining of a shell, and the carbon lamps lifted at the corners were on in the light, and the locusts were started, and the fireflies were out, and a few frogs were flopping in the dewy grass by the time the fathers and the children came out. The children ran out first, hell-bent and yelling those names by which they were known. Then the fathers sank out leisurely in cross suspenders, their collars removed and their necks looking tall and shy. The mothers stayed back in the kitchen, washing and drying, putting things away, recrossing their traceless steps, like the lifetime journeys of bees, measuring out the dry cocoa for breakfast. When they came out, they had taken off their aprons, and their skirts were dampened, and they sat in rockers on the porches quietly.